The golden orb materialized before Arata, shimmering with destiny. His dream of becoming a slayer was finally within his grasp. But before his fingers could even graze its surface, his worthless father snatched it from the air, callously declaring it would fetch a high price. When his brother Ryu dared to object, their vile father launched a savage kick, sending him slamming into the wall with brutal force. After ditching his sons, the old man scurried off to a scumbag named Takatora, hawking the golden orb for 30 million. Years bled into one another, until one day, Arata and Ryu were glued to the news watching some guy brag about his own golden orb, one with a familiar blue ring. Their hearts stopped. There's only one golden orb for each element in all of Japan. There was no mistaking it. That orb was Arata's stolen future, and you better believe they stormed out that door to take it back. Ryu got right in Takatora's face, demanding he return his brother's property, but Takatora just played dumb, fanning the flames of Ryu's fury. Seeing he was cornered, Takatora finally relented, promising to lead them to the orb and guiding them into a dark, isolated room. The moment the door clicked shut, a cold dread washed over them. They had walked straight into a trap. A swirling magic fissure pulsed in the center of the room. Before they could even turn around, Takatora bolted the door, sealing them inside. In an instant, the fissure spat out a jet-black soul. Like the incredible brother he was, Ryu reacted instantly, shoving Arata clear of the blast and taking the full hit himself. Slowly, Ryu's body began to contort. As the darkness consumed him, he managed one last sentence to Arata. "I always believed in you," before his form twisted into a monstrous four-armed ogre. Arata's world shattered despair, threatening to swallow him whole. He blamed himself, but a spark of rage cut through the guilt. He told himself, this wasn't on him. It was on the greedy, selfish people who had ripped everything away. In that moment of pure fury, the dark orb appeared. As if summoned by his rage, he instinctively reached out, and the orb plunged into his body, merging with his soul. Searing agony tore through him as the transformation began. While screaming and desperately clinging to his sanity, a system notification flashed in his vision. It confirmed he had gained the protection of the demon realm, and with it came a deadly arsenal of new skills: the Blast Shadow Blade, the Blast Armor, and the Blast Flash. Outside, Takatora was laughing his head off, mocking the two brothers. He gloated about his master plan to murder them and absorb their power to level up, boasting about his superior status and calling them nothing but peasants. In his mind, he'd already won, completely oblivious to the demonic power Arata was currently inheriting. When the blinding pain finally faded, it hit Arata. He had absorbed the orb's immense power. He had zero time to process this revelation because the ogre that was once his brother came charging at him with a murderous roar. A massive fist came down to pulverize him, but Arata's body moved on its own, a blur of motion before the impact could even land. Arata was stunned. He had dodged the lethal blow on pure instinct, his body feeling impossibly light. He then noticed a holographic status screen shimmering in front of him, displaying his level, his stats, his new skills, and even an HP bar. Everything was happening so fast, he didn't know if this made him a slayer or something else entirely. He was still trying to wrap his head around it all when his brother charged again. Arata unleashed a desperate scream, begging his brother to fight the dark energy's influence, promising him that he was going to save him no matter what. Declaring it was his turn to be the protector, Arata stood his ground. Just as the beast's claws were about to rip him apart, it screeched to a halt. The ogre let out a roar of pure frustration, then smashed through the wall behind them and fled into the darkness. Arata stood in shock. That hesitation, that scream, it meant a part of Ryu was still in there, still fighting. But as the reality of the situation sunk in, Arata knew his brother, now seen as a monster, would be hunted down and killed by slayers on sight. If they got to Ryu first, it was over. He had to find his brother before anyone else did. Suddenly, a new magic fissure ripped open the air, and a horrifying beast crawled out from the void. It didn't waste a second, lunging forward to slash Arata and run him through. Arata vaulted backward, dodging the beast's fist as it cratered the ground where he'd been standing. Arata was still trying to process the new threat when the beast's tail whipped around and cracked against him like a thunderclap, sending him flying into the wall. Agony erupted through his entire body. This monster wasn't some low-level mob. It was the real deal. Arata knew he had to end this fight quickly so he could chase after his brother. That's when he remembered the power now coursing through his veins: the Blast Shadow Blade, the Blast Armor, and the Blast Flash. They were all still at level 1, but they were his. Realizing he now had the power of a slayer, a surge of confidence electrified him, and he stood his ground. As the beast barreled towards him again, Arata focused his new power and unleashed the Blast Flash. A shockwave of dark energy erupted, blasting the beast off its feet. Arata tried to steal a moment to breathe, but the creature was already scrambling up, more enraged than before. It charged, and before Arata could react, he was slammed against the wall, his consciousness fading. The irony was sickening. He'd finally gained the power he'd craved his whole life, only to be killed just moments after receiving it. He's left wondering if this is it, if he's going to die a total nobody without ever managing to save his brother. Just as the creature lunges for the final blow, Arata's body erupts in a dark purple aura, plunging him into the flow state. His eyes snap open, and they blaze with the intensity of a starving vampire. Out of the blue, a volley of projectiles slams into the beast, making it shriek in agony. Arata blacks out, and when his vision returns, he sees the monster's corpse sprawled out before him, riddled with unfamiliar weapons. The sight leaves him completely stunned. As he tries to process whether he actually defeated the beast, totally clueless about what just happened, the system chimes in. He's officially reached level 3. Arata connects the dots. Beating that thing must have caused him to level up, which means his stats just got a serious glow up. But he shoves aside any thoughts of getting stronger. The only mission that matters now is finding his brother. He hauls himself to his feet, stumbling onto the wrecked street. The image of Takatora flashes in his mind, and a fire of pure rage ignites within him. He makes a silent vow that dude will never be forgiven for what he's done. Abruptly, the last of his strength vanishes and he collapses right there on the pavement. Meanwhile, Takatora has slithered back to the room, expecting to confirm the brothers' deaths, but instead finds a blown-out wall and utter devastation. Takatora's eyes go wide with disbelief. There is absolutely no way he could have predicted that the brothers would have the power to break out of his trap. Sometime later, Arata is jolted awake from a dream filled with memories of his brother. He scans his surroundings, realizing he's in a strange, clinical-looking room. It turns out to be an infirmary. The last thing he can recall is storming the Goto building and clashing with a monster. Then the horrifying truth hits him like a ton of bricks. His brother was that beast, and he's the only one who can save him. Arata throws off the covers to leave, but a nurse materializes in the doorway, holding a tray of medical supplies. She insists he needs to stay in bed. Arata fumbles for words, completely caught off guard, as the nurse explains they received a call about him collapsing on the roadside. She then gestures to the brutal injuries he sustained during his fight. He had completely blanked on the damage, but her words brought the whole ordeal rushing back. Arata finally asks the nurse where he is, and the woman calmly replies that he's in a Slayer relief station. The nurse mentions this is nothing new to her. Rookie Slayers often bite off more than they can chew in their first battle and end up in a hospital bed. Arata is floored to hear he's in a relief station, and his mind races trying to figure out who could have possibly brought him here. The nurse then advises Arata to join a guild and get an official Slayer badge. She's about to launch into a speech about all the perks that come with guild membership, but Arata cuts her off, his voice firm, insisting there's somewhere he absolutely has to be. The nurse immediately goes into full-on mom mode, scolding him that he can't just go running around when he needs to be recovering. Seeing no other choice, Arata sinks back onto the bed, and the nurse leaves, telling him to wait for her return. The very second she's gone, Arata is out of that bed and creeping toward the door. As he reaches it, he overhears some guys discussing the magic beast that appeared near the Goto building. Arata knows instantly they're talking about his brother. He also catches them mention that an unidentified slayer is with the beast. The men agree it's going to be a massive problem for them to contain the creature if it manages to slip into a magic fissure. The grim reality sets in. The guild is actively hunting his brother, and it won't be long before they track him down and put him down for good. Arata knows he has to find his brother, and he has to do it now. The nurse returns to the room, only to find it empty with the window hanging wide open. Arata is already tearing through the streets, consumed with the fear that his brother is about to be permanently erased. He recalls the men talking about a magic fissure, and it clicks: his brother might be trapped inside one. With this new lead, Arata resolves to check out every single magic fissure in the vicinity. As if on cue, a citywide alert buzzes on his phone, warning that a magic fissure has just materialized in the Asagi area, and all civilians should evacuate immediately. The timing is too suspicious to be a coincidence, so Arata sprints toward it. He arrives at the location of the crack, and sees that it's a low-level bronze rank fissure. He also notices a containment barrier has been erected around it, which means someone from the association has already been here, but he can't sense any slayers nearby yet. Since this is his first time ever going into a magic fissure, he's understandably nervous and a little freaked out, but he pushes past the fear, reminding himself that this is all to save his brother. The moment he steps through the shimmering portal, the system registers that someone is attempting to clear the fissure. Arata is absolutely blown away by the sight on the other side. He's standing in what looks like a vast, endless desert, a world completely alien from the city he just left. With no idea where his brother could possibly be, he concludes that his only option is to venture deeper. Just then, a new mission notification flashes before his eyes. To clear the fissure, he must defeat the boss lurking within. He deduces his target must be lurking in the absolute deepest heart of the fissure, but he knows a gauntlet of other beasts stands in his way, and for a split second, a chilling question echoes in his mind. Is he strong enough? Out of the gloom, a level 3 beast materializes. He vaguely recalls downing one just yesterday, but the memory is hazy, unreliable. Regardless, there's no path but forward. He taps into his skill list and the shadow blade solidifies in his grip. A flash of relief hits Arata as the weapon forms, The beast charges a blur of teeth and claws, but he slams the shadow sword up, deflecting the monster's savage bite. Arata's muscles scream as he's locked in a brutal stalemate, teeth grinding, as he summons every scrap of strength he possesses. The creature's raw power shoves him backward, sending him skidding across the cavern floor. It's a harsh awakening. This is what it truly means to fight a monster. All that training with his brother, it feels like a joke now, utterly useless against this kind of primal fury. Shaking off the doubt, he recomposes and explodes in a flash of movement, blitzing the beast and reducing it to nothing but pieces. A notification screen immediately flares to life. He's skyrocketed from level 3 straight to level 5. Before he can even process it, an entire pack of monsters materializes before him. A wave of pure dread washes over him. This is impossible. A bronze-rank dungeon should never be able to spawn this many enemies. Arata's mind races, grappling with the terrifying possibility of facing them all at once. But instead of letting fear paralyze him, Arata braces himself, readying his stance for the impending onslaught. He clings to a sliver of hope. If he can just reactivate that broken skill from the day before, he might actually have a fighting chance. The moment the horde stampedes toward him, Arata realizes he's totally screwed. He has no clue how to even use the overpowered skill. Just as he's about to be torn to shreds, a massive wave of fire erupts from nowhere, completely engulfing the monsters. Arata is in total shock when a voice from behind him cuts through the air, demanding to know what kind of skill he just used. But he can't even answer. His brain is still short-circuiting from the insane display of firepower he just witnessed. The unknown dude is staring him down like he's a major threat. And then he reveals he got a tip from the association about an unidentified slayer. Judging by the carnage, he's got his man. Arata sizes up the newcomer and instantly knows this guy is a golden slayer, and he wields the fire attribute. The man introduces himself as Ryo Kuji, a key member of the Lion Flame Guild. He's not alone, flanked by two other slayers, Shumaki Shima and Hayato Akagi, both silver-ranked. Arata's mind spins. Why is one of the legendary 5 great kings here? Their conversation is cut short by a few straggling beasts. With a look of utter annoyance, Ryo snaps his fingers, and the monsters disintegrate into flaming dust, leaving an inferno swirling in his wake. It's a complete power flex just to show off for our MC. The move leaves Arata speechless, witnessing the overwhelming power of a golden slayer up close. For the very first time, Ryo strolls toward him, commenting on the ridiculously high number of monsters for such a low-rank fisher. Then his gaze fixes on Arata's shadow sword, and he asks flat out, "What's your skill?" The question hits Arata hard because he's been desperately wondering the exact same thing. He only knows that his ability doesn't belong to any of the 5 main attributes. He has no idea what it is. This just makes Ryo even more intrigued. "You're a weirdo," Ryo states, wielding a weird-ass skill. His face turns dead serious. Ryo leans in, demanding, "What are you really doing down here?" Arata knows he can't possibly admit he's searching for his brother. They'd just slap a subjugation order on him too. No chance. So Arata decides to just ignore the question entirely. He turns his back, throws a quick thanks for the help over his shoulder, and starts to walk away. See, awakening orbs are supposed to be like a prayer resonating with a user's inner power to grant them the attribute they're closest to. It's basic knowledge, but Ryo sees absolutely no trace of that system in Arata. He calls out, stopping him cold. "I've figured it out," Ryo declares. "You're the irregular slayer they're all talking about." Arata whirls around to argue, shot back, "I don't know what you mean by irregular slayer. I need to go." But Ryo blocks his path. "Sorry, pal. The association ordered me to bring you in for questioning. Don't take it personally." Ryo smirks before launching himself forward, his fist engulfed in a raging inferno. Just as the fiery explosion is about to connect, Arata instinctively throws his sword up to shield his head. He's left completely stunned when his shadow blade is instantly vaporized by Ryo's insane firepower. Even Ryo looks shocked that the sword just vanished into thin air. Arata desperately leaps back to create some space. But Ryo isn't finished. "Don't interfere," he barks at his subordinates, a wild grin spreading across his face. "This is actually starting to be fun." The 2 slayers nod, but you can see the fear in their eyes. They know they'll be reduced to ash if Ryo actually gets serious in this fight. Without hesitation, Ryo unleashes a fresh barrage of fireballs aimed right at Arata. Arata realizes he is in serious life-threatening danger and dives behind a huge rock to shield himself from the fiery impacts. As the inferno dies down, a smug grin spreads across Ryo's face, and he tells Arata to just give up unless he wants to be turned into a pile of dust. Ducking behind a massive rock, it hits Arata that he'll never lay eyes on his brother again if this guy manages to capture him. In a flash, Ryo launches himself skyward and unleashes a devastating heat-seeking fireball straight for Arata's hiding spot. Realizing that cover is useless, Arata dives out of the way, dodging the explosive impact by a razor-thin margin. Ryo lands with total confidence, sneering that running and hiding is a dead-end strategy. While Ryo is just laughing his head off and dissing him, Arata frantically scrolls through his skill list, desperately looking for an ace up his sleeve. Facing off against this absolute maniac who's basically a real-life Fire Lord Ozai Arata, lands on a skill he's betting will be clutch. Arata forces himself to his feet, and from his new stance, Rio feels a shift in the air around him. Arata extends his hands forward. Rio just scoffs, letting him know that whatever little trick he's planning is completely pointless. Like it's nothing, Rio unleashes another volley of fireballs. The moment the fireballs are about to slam into him, Arata's power flares to life, and he literally eats the flames. The backlash is insane, but he stays on his feet. Right then and there, Rio finally gets it. This kid is not just some scrub. Still, Rio flexes, showing off an even more terrifying level of firepower, and gives him one last chance to surrender before he gets erased. In response, Arata's shadow sword extends, growing longer and sharper as he declares that his brother is waiting and getting caught is not an option. Hearing the word brother hits a nerve with Rio, shattering his focus for a split second. That's all the opening Arata needs to close the distance. By the time Rio snaps out of his daze, Arata is already a blur in the air, his blade screaming down towards him. With barely a millisecond to spare, Rio throws up his arm, blocking the strike with his armored gauntlet. He digs his heels in, holding his position. But he can feel it. Something about Arata has fundamentally changed. After a tense moment, Arata leaps back, telling Rio he has to go. Rio is completely thrown by this, but then he says something wild, that if Arata is serious about protecting someone, he'll have to be the one to take down the boss. Arata is floored, realizing that Rio is for some reason actually talking to him, trying to help. Rio keeps going, telling Arata that he's got to grind his levels faster and quit being so reckless, or he's just going to burn himself out for good. A genuine smile breaks out on Arata's face as he thanks Rio for the advice before bolting. Rio just watches him go, a proud, almost fatherly grin on his face. His goons rush over reporting that they've cleared out all the beasts in the surrounding area, but Rio just says that Arata is one hell of a fiery kid. The two lackeys are shook when they see their boss is actually smiling, a clear sign he's in an unexpectedly good mood. Meanwhile, over at the Navy Guild, a report comes in about another magic fissure tearing open. Guildmaster immediately dispatches one of her silver slayers, a girl named Aoi Ichika, to handle the new breach. And unlike pretty much everyone else, Ichika looks absolutely stoked to jump into a fight. You can see the sheer excitement plastered all over her face. A bit later, Arata gets booted from the fissure after someone else defeated the boss, and he instantly knew it had to be Rio. Even before the instance closed, Arata had desperately searched around, but there wasn't a single trace of his brother anywhere. Later, Arata catches a news broadcast warning everyone to report any sightings of the magic beast. Seeing this, Arata figures he can't count on anyone else for help. No, he's got to handle everything all on his own. Right on cue, an alert pops up on his screen. Another magic fissure is materializing in District 4. As always, every phone in the vicinity buzzes with an evacuation notice. Since the district is super close to his current location, Arata knows he has to check it out. He sprints toward the hot zone, praying he gets there before any other slayers. He arrives to find it's a bronze-ranked fissure. Since the dungeon hasn't been cleared yet, a spark of hope ignites in Arata. Maybe his brother is inside this one. But just as he's about to enter, a couple of dudes from the Navy Guild, Hanamita and Ishinari, step in his way, telling him the area is off-limits. The situation gets way more hostile when they spot Arata's missing badge. They immediately start running their mouths, clowning on him for being some lowbie who couldn't even get into a guild. They call him a normal slayer, and in this world, a normal slayer is rock bottom, while a gold-ranked slayer is the absolute peak. Arata is just baffled by the audacity of these two. Like, who even are these guys? They won't shut up, bragging that their master is the one who's going to clear this fissure. And because of that, they tell Arata nobody else gets to go in, especially not some trash like him. Arata, totally confused by their attitude, tells them he has a legit reason why he needs to get inside that fissure and fast. The two guys basically tell Arata they don't give a damn about his reasons, because there's zero chance they're letting him pass. Then they cross a line, launching a surprise attack on him. Arata's reflexes kick in, and he dodges just before getting hit. He keeps it passive, telling them again that he's in a serious hurry. But Arata finally decides he's going to teach them some respect, when he sees they have no intention of backing down. His shadow blade materializes in his hand as he lunges toward the two of them, ready to teach them what real pain felt like. But just as he's about to move, he realizes his feet are cemented in place. He glances down, and sees he's been caught in a mud trap laid by the two clowns. Before he can process it, the ground starts swallowing him whole, and the horrifying truth hits him. It's a bottomless pit. If he can't break free, he's dead. Paralyzed Arata can only glare at the two punks, completely helpless. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the tension from behind, demanding to know what they're doing to Arata. They whip around, and standing there is none other than Aoi Ichika. The two goons are completely shook. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near here. Aoi wastes zero time on them and focuses on Arata. Channeling her power, she summons a massive wave of water that erupts from the ground, yanking him free from the sludge. Aoi then turns on the bullies, asking why in the world slayers are throwing down against each other, still gasping for air. Arata explains that Hanamida and Ishinari are gatekeeping the fissure, refusing to let him inside. Aoi's heard rumors about slayers, who illegally jump into fissures before they've been properly scouted all, so they can hog the glory and the rewards. And one look at these two tells her everything she needs to know. They quickly realize Aoi is a major problem for their little operation, and they decide they have to take her out. They're feeling cocky, figuring they can easily overwhelm her since she's just a support class. Without a shred of hesitation, they launch a barrage of ice shards right at her, but Aoi instantly throws up a shimmering barrier, shielding both herself and Arata. After effortlessly deflecting their attack, Aoi looks at Arata and tells him to handle the two of them while she provides backup. Arata is floored. He's literally never been in a real fight before in his life, but with their backs against the wall, what choice do they have? He agrees to do it. Aoi thanks him for trusting her and immediately activates one of her skills, Merlin Schnell. A surge of energy instantly flows through Arata, and he can feel the buff's incredible effect as his entire body feels weightless, completely different from just moments ago. Aoi assures him that this fight is about to become a cakewalk, giving him the green light to go absolutely ham on the delinquents while she juices him up with her skills. Arata grins and explodes toward the duo at a blinding speed. They're completely stunned by his sudden burst of power, because Arata is now unbelievably fast. Before they can even blink, Arata claps them with his Slayer Blade. With just one solid hit, he drops them both. Arata feels absolutely no recoil from the impact. Even after that insane move, when he pulls up his stats, his jaw hits the floor, all his numbers have skyrocketed. Aoi rushes over yelling, asking if he actually cut the two of them down, but Arata quickly clarifies that he only hit them with the flat of his blade. Aoi breathes a sigh of relief, but she's seriously ticked off that members of her own guild are out here, making a complete fool of themselves. That's when Arata notices the Water Slayer emblem on her chest and puts it together, that she's also from Takatora's guild. After finally introducing themselves, Aoi has to admit that Arata is surprisingly strong. Before their conversation can continue, they hear the two bullies scrambling to their feet and making a run for it. As they flee, they yell out their master's name, and it turns out to be Takatora. That name immediately grabs Arata's full attention. And Aoi's interest is piqued as well. She declares her plan to report Takatora's shady, behind-the-scenes schemes to the guildmaster Rei. Now that the trash is gone, Aoi reminds Arata that they still have a fissure to clear. Arata is a bit reluctant, but Aoi informs him that other guild members will be arriving soon. Until then, though, she can fight right alongside him. Turns out she has high-level authorization to clear this fissure herself. Arata is genuinely bewildered when he hears this. Aoi suggests they team up, explaining that recent reports show that even lower-rank fissures have been acting up with strange, unpredictable threats. Besides, Aoi is a support slayer, and Arata remembers just how broken her earlier buff felt. This is his chance to properly thank the girl who saved him, and Aoi asks him one more time if he's willing to tackle the fissure with her. An offer this good is impossible to refuse, so Arata agrees on the spot. Hyped for their newfound partnership, the two of them charge into the fissure, ready to conquer it. The moment they step inside, Arata is stunned. This place is nothing like the last fissure. It's a massive, eerie cave with ominous shadows everywhere. Aoi explains that the interior of a fissure is basically its own pocket dimension, which is exactly why you never truly know what kind of world you're about to step into. Aoi warns that they should proceed with caution, and Arata completely agrees. As they venture deeper, Arata realizes the cavern is dead silent. There's no sign of a single magic beast, and on top of that, his older brother is nowhere in sight. Arata wasn't naive enough to think he'd find his brother easily, but since he's been blessed with the incredible opportunity to run a fissure with a silver-ranked slayer, he plans to learn how to actually fight, while also grinding some serious levels. A moment later, they're ambushed by a level 5 goblin that looks absolutely ravenous, like it wants to use their blood for a morning smoothie. Arata flashes back to the day before, when he almost got taken out by a single goblin, even though they are considered the absolute weakest of all magic beasts. This time, without an ounce of hesitation, Arata lunges for the goblin, and cleanly separates its head from its shoulders. He's still got a smirk on his face from the easy takedown, when an entire legion of them materializes from the shadows. A tidal wave of green skin and snarling teeth floods his vision, and for a terrifying second, Arata's confidence shatters. Can he really take on this many? But then a familiar golden aura envelops him, as Aoi's buff kicks in, sending his stats surging through the roof. He glances back to see Aoi's confident smirk. "Go show him what you're made of," she says. That's all the permission Arata needs. He becomes a whirlwind of steel, carving through the goblin horde without a shred of mercy. With the last one down, a notification pops. Level 5 becomes level 6. "Nice work," Aoi chirps. "With me backing you up, these bronze rank chumps are a total cakewalk." He can feel it too, a raw power coursing through his veins. "I've never felt this strong," he admits, and Aoi just puffs out her chest. They don't call me the linchpin of rear support for nothing, she brags. But in that moment of triumph, a chilling presence materializes right behind them. Arata's eyes go wide. Aoi, look out. A lone goblin lunges its rusted blade aimed right for her back, but Aoi's shield shimmers into existence, deflecting the blow with a deafening clang. Her smile is gone, replaced by a look of pure fury. In a flash of light, she unleashes a devastating blast that vaporizes the goblin on the spot. Arata is completely stunned. The speed, the flawless execution, she chained multiple skills together in a split second. This wasn't just talent. This was pure, battle-hardened experience. She's not just fast. She's a one-woman support system. He's totally lost in awe when her voice snaps him out of it. Hey, Daydreamer, we gotta move. In that instant, Aoi isn't just a party member anymore. She's his new idol. He vows to himself that he'll grind, get stronger, and one day reach her level. Arata blurts out his new goal of being strong enough to shield others, just the way she does. Aoi's expression softens into a genuine smile, telling him that it's a worthy ambition. However, she warns him that he's got to survive this, first pointing out the horde of goblins that has now trapped them. This is when Arata finally sees it. They're completely surrounded. An entire goblin army has materialized from the shadows. His heart hammers in his chest, but he sees that Aoi is as cool as a cucumber. Just like clockwork, that golden light washes over him again. Time for round 2, Aoi says, her voice steady. Take them all down. Arata appreciates the massive boost he gets from her support, a new fire of determination igniting within him. He lunges at the nearest goblins, hacking and slashing, a blur of motion and steel. Limbs fly, goblins fall, and with every kill, his power skyrockets. When the dust settles, not a single goblin is left standing. Then the system alert chimes. His jaw drops. He hasn't just leveled up, he's vaulted from level 6 all the way to level 10. Arata is speechless, but as a reward for hitting double digits, he unlocks a brand new skill, Blast Cannon. But his celebration is cut brutally short, as another wave of monsters appears on the horizon. This time the force is so massive that it sends a shiver down even Aoi's spine. Our only shot is a preemptive strike, Aoi says, her voice tight with tension. Aoi tells Arata his ability is strange, but she needs to know if he has a ranged attack, because if he doesn't, they're about to be completely buried. A ranged attack. The words echo in his head, then it clicks. His new skill, the Blast Cannon. This is what it was made for. Without a second thought, Arata activates the skill, aiming into the sea of goblins. A massive beam of pure magical energy erupts from his palm, tearing a hole straight through the goblin front lines. But Arata isn't done. He fires again. And again. By the time the smoke clears, the entire goblin army has been completely annihilated. Aoi slowly turns to him, a slow, impressed smile spreading across her face. Arata knows he's finally done something right, actually managing to live up to her insane standards. She suggests they push on to the boss room, and this time Arata feels ready for anything. Just then, another notification confirms his new status, level 12. Moments later, they find themselves standing before a massive dark opening. The boss is in there. Aoi whispers her hand on her weapon. Stay sharp. His nerves are shot. This is his first ever boss fight, but one look at Aoi and a new resolve hardens within him. He has to protect the girl beside him. Inside, enthroned in the center of the chamber, sits their target, a hulking level 15 ogre. The monster heaves itself to its feet and growls something in a guttural language he can't understand. And then, without any warning, the magic beast unleashes a crackling bolt of lightning from its massive staff. I've got this, Aoi shouts, stepping in front of him. Using one of her abilities, she throws up a shimmering barrier to block the blast, but the sheer force of the impact sends her flying to the ground. Aoi hits the dirt, hard stunned. This thing is supposed to be bronze. Rank, she gasps. The boss is already charging up another lightning blast. We'll never get near it if it just spams ranged attacks like that, Aoi yells. Aoi reveals her strategy. She'll draw its fire while he dives in for a counterattack. Arata sees her shield cracking under the pressure, and something inside him snaps. He's sick and tired of always being the one who needs protection. Forget the plan. While the ogre focuses its magic on Aoi, Arata breaks from cover, sprinting straight at the beast. Once he's in the perfect spot, he aims and unleashes his blast cannon at point-blank range. The explosion shatters the ogre's staff, instantly neutralizing its biggest threat. Aoi is totally hyped that Arata nailed it, but the ogre is beyond furious and hurls the jagged remains of its weapon directly at him. The projectile comes out of nowhere, catching Arata completely off guard. He desperately tries to dodge, but in that split second he knows he's not going to make it. Before he can even flinch, the twisted metal shreds right through his torso. Blood sprays from Arata's mouth as he slams into the ground. Aoi doesn't waste a single second. Before scrambling to his side, she throws up a protective barrier around them and immediately starts channeling her healing magic into Arata. In just a few moments, the gaping wound on his body knits itself shut. Arata lets out a ragged cough, finally managing to push himself to a sitting position. Aoi explains it was just battlefield first aid and quickly asks if he's still mobile. Arata thanks her for the clutch save. and insists he's still good to fight. But their relief was short-lived as the enraged ogre barrels towards them once again. Arata's mind is blown. A creature that massive has no business moving so fast, and it's heading straight for them. The ogre swings a massive fist, aiming to flatten them into a paste, but Aoi's barrier miraculously holds against the devastating impact. She's straining under the immense force, and Arata realizes they are absolutely screwed if they don't end this thing like right now. His eyes scan the beast, and then he spots it, a tiny, unprotected gap in the armor, right at the ogre's neck. That's the weak spot. That's how they win this. Just like before, Aoi runs interference, drawing the monster's aggro, while Arata maneuvers to line up the perfect shot. This time, however, the beast is onto him. It clocks his plan, and immediately switches its focus from Aoi. It swings a brutal punch at Arata, but just as the blow is about to connect, he sees his chance, a wide-open shot at the ogre's throat. He unleashes his cannon point-blank. The blast sends the monster staggering to its knees, and Aoi screams at Arata, telling him to finish it now. Arata summons his shadow blade, a new fire in his eyes. He is done being the one who needs saving, but before he can deliver the final blow, Aoi isn't just watching from the sidelines. She hits him with a serious power buff. A grin flashes across Arata's face as he feels the energy surge through him. He charges the ogre and launches himself into the air, channeling every ounce of his newfound strength into the swing. The sheer force of the blow decapitates the ogre, leaving its massive body headless. A fountain of blood erupts as the monster finally falls. Staring up at the cave ceiling, Arata gets that beautiful notification he has leveled up. Once more, Aoi is beaming as she runs over, hand raised for a high five. Arata, both shocked and thrilled, slaps her hand in return, but with the boss defeated, the entire dungeon starts to collapse around them. The two of them make a mad dash for the exit, trying not to get buried alive. They barely manage to escape the fissure, just before it completely dematerializes. He didn't find his brother, Arata thinks, but he definitely got a massive power-up. He's mulling this over when his legs finally give out and he collapses from pure exhaustion. Aoi sees just how wrecked he really is, and grabs his arm, telling him to come with her. Arata groans, thinking he's being hauled off to the infirmary again, but she doesn't take him there. Instead, Aoi drags him all the way to the Navy Guild headquarters. She parks him in a waiting room and tosses him a change of clothes. She then dips out, saying she has to go file a report first. 15 minutes tick by, and Arata starts to wonder what the holdup is. He decides to peek his head out to see what's going on, and just as he steps into the hall, a girl sprinting down the corridor trips and nearly faceplants right in front of him. Arata catches her just in time. He's about to strike up a conversation when a sudden horrifying thought hits him. Arata immediately aborts any potential riz he was about to lay down, and just bolts for the entrance. It's only after he's running that it truly clicks. The girl he just saved is the guildmaster of the Navy Guild, and there is no way he can afford to get questioned by her. Ray, meanwhile, is just standing there, totally confused, wondering why that guy just booked it. She just shrugs it off and continues to the conference room where Aoi is waiting. Ray gives her a warm welcome back, but Aoi is in no mood for pleasantries. She cuts right to the chase, telling her they need to talk. She immediately starts unloading all her frustrations about what Takatora has been plotting behind their backs. Ray has to get her to chill out as Aoi just keeps ranting. Finally, Aoi takes a breath and breaks down the whole situation for her. Aoi explains that Takatora has been manipulating the fissures for his own personal gain. Ray is completely stunned by this revelation, and decides then and there that she's going to handle him personally. Still, her mind drifts back to Arata, the mysterious guy she literally just ran into. The next day, Arata is breathing a sigh of relief, thinking he dodged a major bullet with Ray, while just praying he didn't end up on her radar. He's cutting through an alley when he spots a group of slayers, getting absolutely wrecked by a magic beast, while desperately trying to shield a little kid. The monster is a gnarly two-headed beast that breathes fire, but without a moment's hesitation, Arata becomes a blur, launching himself straight at the creature. He closes the distance in an instant, and with a single powerful punch crackling with shadow energy, he completely shatters the beast's fire blast. The slayer, who was shielding the kid, looks on in shock, is absolutely floored by this display of raw power, his mind racing, wondering if this guy is actually a slayer. Arata isn't about to let a prime farming opportunity slip by, and he summons his immense shadow sword. The slayer's eyes go wide. He's never seen an ability like that in his life. Arata plants himself between the beast and the kids he's shielding. The monster lunges, a blur of teeth and claws, but he holds a flawless thrusting stance, and with a single perfect strike, he completely obliterates the horrifying creature. What he doesn't know is that he's being scouted from the shadows by a slayer who's suddenly very, very interested in him. Back at the Japan Slayers Association headquarters, the five kings themselves have convened for a meeting. We're talking the top brass Jinosuke Dojo from the Seiwa Guild, Ryokuji from the Lion Flame Guild, Rei Isaki from the Navy Guild, Takuto Nagihara of the Jade Sky Guild, and Shion Inamori, representing the Kaizen Guild. Dojo kicks things off, zeroing in on the first item on their docket, the absolutely insane number of fissures that have been popping up all over the country. Rio chimes in, confirming a bronze-rank fissure spiraled out of control not long ago, unleashing a horde of magic beasts. Ray adds that they're also seeing cases where bosses are spawning in the wrong fissures, and they're way stronger than the designated rank. Rio just scoffs, not caring if they're abnormal anomalies. He sees it as just another intense training day for his slayers. A smirk plays on Takuto's lips as he listens to Rio's take, calling him out for being way too casual about the whole situation. That hits a nerve. Rio explodes to his feet, absolutely fuming at Takuto. Rio boasts that his guild has pulled more weight than Takuto's, but Takuto just chills, completely unfazed by the outburst, until Rio finally slumps back into his chair. Since this crisis has only been happening recently, Ray questions what could possibly be the cause. Dojo theorizes that something is fundamentally shifting on the magic beast's side, triggering these unusual spikes in fissure appearances. But he assures his comrades that whatever this change is, it's a breadcrumb trail that will lead them to the truth. He orders them to report even the smallest anomaly directly to him, and they all confirm they understand. With that settled, Dojo switches gears to the mysterious unregistered slayer who's been hopping from one fissure to another like a ghost. Dojo admits no one has a clue what his motives are, but he has a gut feeling that the changes aren't just happening to the monsters, but to the slayers as well. Ray immediately speaks up, telling them a guy matching that description just showed up at her guild. She describes his skill set as something completely alien, totally different from any known technique. But before Ray could even get a word in with him, he vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, Takuto, who was spying on that very slayer from a rooftop, decides to keep that little tidbit to himself. Ray then speculates to her colleagues that maybe this rogue slayer knows his skills are one of a kind, which is why he feels like he doesn't fit in with any of the established guilds. Just as Ray floats this theory, Takuto cuts in with a wild accusation suggesting the possibility that Arata is actually a magic beast in disguise. Rio instantly shuts that down, telling him to stop spitting garbage and coming to Arata's defense. Ray is stunned to hear Rio has actually met the guy, and at this point Rio drops the act. He confirms the kid is insanely powerful, but there's zero chance he's a monster. Takuto just bursts out laughing at this, admitting he was just trying to get a rise out of them. Dojo then informs the group that the order to apprehend Arata is strictly optional, since they have no real evidence to issue a warrant for his arrest just yet. Shion, who's been silent this whole time, finally speaks. She tells them that if Arata isn't ready to come forward, then there's no point in obsessing over him. Having delivered her one and only take for the meeting, Shion gets up to leave. In a total power move, she claims she has a tea meeting to get to. As she reaches the door, she spots a tiny camera tucked away near the ceiling. She has no idea what it is, but she and the rest of the kings are clueless. That Takatora is the one on the other side watching their every move through the camera he secretly planted in the room. From what he's just overheard, Takatora realizes Arata is a huge deal to the Five Kings, and a plan begins to form if he captures the kid. His own stock within the association would skyrocket. Plus, it would end all this chaos. He'd be killing two birds with one stone. He knows he needs solid intel if he's going to successfully hunt down this rogue. Based on the information he has, he deduces that Arata has somehow gained the unique skill of light while his brother has been twisted into a magic beast. Connecting these two dots, Takatora figures out exactly where Arata is going to show up next. He rises from his chair, deciding he needs to handle Arata personally before this whole thing blows up. Later, Arata sees a crowd of people sprinting away from a magic fissure, but he does the opposite. He sprints toward it. Just as he's about to enter the breach, he's cut off by Takatora. Decked out in full Slayer armor and wearing the most punchable smirk imaginable, Takatora starts mocking Arata for desperately clinging to life before informing him that he's here to drag him back to the association. He tells Arata to come along quietly, but Arata just roars back, "Don't get in my way." Takatora just scoffs at his defiance. With a cruel smirk, Takatora mocks Arata about his rampaging beast-transformed brother, casually mentioning he's going to put him down. A blind rage consumes Arata, who unleashes a devastating blast from his burst cannon directly at Takatora. The Golden Slayer doesn't even flinch. As the torrent of energy screams toward him, he effortlessly devours Arata's attack with a single dismissive shot, leaving Arata completely stunned. But quitting isn't in his vocabulary. Arata summons his Shadow Blade and lunges a blur of motion aimed straight for Takatora. It's useless. He's hopelessly outmatched. Takatora fires off a long-range blast, aiming to swallow Arata whole. Arata throws his sword up in a desperate block, but the raw power of the attack is overwhelming, shattering his defense and slamming him into the ground. Takatora looms over him, sneering that Arata's power is only special because it's new, not because it's strong. Arata painfully drags himself up his mind, racing, trying to figure out what went wrong. He'd upgraded both his burst cannon and his blazing Shadow Blade. A chilling thought creeps in. Maybe he just can't beat a Golden Slayer no matter what. Yet even facing absolute defeat, Arata forces himself back onto his feet. Takatora's eyes widen slightly, surprised the kid still has any fight left in him. That's when Arata unleashes a new skill, Soot Darkness. A thick black smoke instantly blankets the area. Takatora remains rooted to the spot, convinced Arata is just creating a pathetic little smokescreen. He scoffs, wondering what the plan is, when suddenly a shadow blade materializes out of the murk, aimed right for his throat. He barely deflects it, his powers flaring to life as he angrily swats away a barrage of other phantom attacks slicing through the smoke. As the smoke thins, he sees Arata charging head-on. Arata's blade nearly finds its mark, a desperate final lunge, but Takatora blocks it with ease. "It's over for you," Arata grits out. Takatora just laughs, telling him this is only the beginning. He's destined to keep growing, to become one of the 5 kings. He lays out his grand ambition to seize the Navy Guild and consolidate total control over the entire association. Arata fires back, vowing he'll never let that happen, spitting that a monster like Takatora is completely unfit to be one of the 5 kings. With a flick of his wrist, Takatora sends Arata flying, telling him to learn his place, down with the rest of the lowlifes. A chilling ice blade materializes in Takatora's hand as he reveals his plan to offer Arata up as a sacrifice. He taunts Arata, saying his pathetic sword could never compare, but Arata, racked with pain, drops a bombshell, screaming that the very orb powering Takatora's weapon was stolen from him. Arata roars that his brother would still be human if Takatora hadn't ripped that orb away. An inferno of dark aura explodes from Arata's body as he remembers that every single tragedy, every bit of his pain traces back to this one man. He launches himself at Takatora in a blind fury. He swings wildly, but Takatora parries the blow. He can feel it, though Arata's power has spiked again, but it's still not enough. With a powerful shove, Takatora knocks him back, ordering him to just give up. To end this, Takatora reveals his true terrifying power, unleashing a devastating skill, the Ice Emperor's Prison. The temperature plummets, and the entire area flash freezes. Arata is instantly encased in jagged ice, completely immobilized. With his movements sealed, Takatora summons a storm of massive icicles to finish the job. With absolutely no way to escape, the attack hits Arata full force, and his world goes black. Takatora scoffs, mocking him for passing out from an attack that wasn't even his full power. He levels his sword at Arata's throat, ready to end it, so he can spin whatever story he wants to the association. But just as he's about to strike, a blast of ice slams into him, stopping him cold. The shock is written all over his face. He turns and sees Rei and Aoi, their expressions dripping with disgust. Rei's voice is ice, noting how much trouble he's been stirring up lately. She demands to know why he's picking a fight in broad daylight in the middle of the city. Takatora is stunned to see the guildmaster. She informs him she's been watching the whole time. Rei sees the pattern now. Takatora always acts like a lawless thug the second she's not around. He tries to defend himself, claiming Arata is an irregular, but Rei cuts him off, stating that gives him zero right to beat the kid half to death. Aoi rushes to Arata's side to help him. In his hazy, fading consciousness, Arata recognizes Rei from the guild. Aoi activates her healing skill, bathing him in a gentle light. Arata's eyes flutter open to see Aoi leaning over him, a look of pure surprise on his face. He tries to get up, but Aoi gently pushes him back down, warning him that his wounds will just tear open again. Arata's gaze finds Takatora, and pure hatred fuels his voice as he screams that he'll never forgive him. The outburst drains the last of his strength, and he collapses unconscious again. Takatora warns the girls they'll be defying the entire association if they choose to protect and heal Arata. Rei coolly informs Takatora that no official arrest warrant for Arata has been issued, and since that's the case, she's officially requesting to place him under the Navy Guild's direct surveillance. Takatora starts to object, but Rei shuts him down, making it clear that she and Aoi are taking full responsibility for Arata from now on. Takatora can only seethe, reminding Rei that he's a Golden Slayer too. Later, Rei corners him, demanding to know what he meant, and Takatora lays out his big idea: they should team up and expand the guild's reach. He even plans to bankroll the whole operation with his Godo Corporation. But Rei shuts him down, cold, drawing a line in the sand and telling him to take a step back. Takatora is forced to retreat, but not before smugly telling Rei she'll come crawling back once she sees what a powerhouse he really is. Absolutely repulsed by his presence, Rei dismisses him and orders Aoi to get Arata to the infirmary, promising she'll be right behind them. A short while later, Arata's eyes flutter open. He's in the Navy Guild's medical bay. He tries to push himself up, but Aoi is already there, gently stopping him. She tells him they have a lot to talk about. Then a shadow of worry crosses her face. Rei still hasn't shown up, and Aoi has a seriously bad feeling about it. She bolts from the room, ordering Arata to stay put, and not even think about pulling another disappearing act. Aoi sprints down the corridor and finds Rei, who just sheepishly claims she got turned around trying to find the infirmary. She yanks Rei by the hand, scolding her for getting lost. Aoi can't wrap her head around how someone as powerful as Rei has absolutely zero sense of direction. The two finally make it back to the infirmary, and the second they step inside, Aoi is all business grilling Arata about why he ghosted the guild before, and why he was throwing down with Takatora. Arata fumbles for an answer, but Rei cuts in explaining that, if he registers with the guild, he'll have their full protection. She lists off all the other perks he'd get, clearly confused why he's so resistant to joining. But Arata's lips remain sealed. Rei sighs, telling him that no matter what he decides, he's going to be under surveillance for his own safety, but she promises they won't try to run his life. After laying it all on the table, Rei asks him if he's finally ready to talk. Arata opens his mouth, a confession on his lips, but then he snaps it shut. The thought of his brother flashes through his mind. Saying anything could put him in unimaginable danger. Seeing the conflict raging in his eyes, Rei perceptively backs off, announcing to both of them that it's time to head out. Arata is completely baffled, but Aoi practically lights up at the suggestion. Later that night, Arata finds himself at a restaurant table with the two girls. He's stunned that he managed to slip out of that intense situation so easily. Aoi points out that he's been in non-stop combat for days. Being a grinder is cool and all, but she tells him that even hardcore players need to take a break. The idea sounds like heaven to Arata, who suddenly realizes he can't remember the last time he had a real meal. Spread before him is a feast of incredible dishes and sizzling meat. He figures he can afford to just chill for a little while before resuming the search for his brother. Aoi encourages him to eat his heart out, casually mentioning the guild is covering the entire bill. Arata is floored by their insane generosity. It hits him that they've done nothing but save his skin time and time again, and he hasn't offered them anything in return. He questions if he even deserves this kindness, but the smell from the grill overwhelms his guilt. He can't resist any longer. Arata dives in, thanking them between mouthfuls. Tears start streaming down his face as he devours the first good meal he's had. In what feels like an eternity, the girls just smile, joining him at the table, genuinely happy to see him like this. For a fleeting moment, Arata wonders if he ever would have experienced this sitting with these incredible people if he hadn't found that orb. Once they've made a dent in the food, Rei decides it's time for a little Q&A. She tells him that he's free to ask her anything he wants in return. Her first question, is he a newly awakened slayer? Aoi nudges Arata, teasing him, saying he's getting the VIP treatment. Most guild members would kill for a one-on-one chat with Rei. Seeing his opening, Arata jumps on it, telling Rei he has a question for her. He needs to know how the guild finds magic fissures. He's desperate to beat Takatora to the next one. Rei reveals that they don't find them, they forecast them. It's basically like predicting an earthquake. She explains they analyze a ton of data, geomagnetism, gravity waves, and historical disturbance cycles to triangulate the approximate time and location where a new fissure will tear open. Even then, she admits their accuracy caps out at around 60%. Aoi notices Rei is actually smiling while talking to Arata, a sight so rare it's practically a miracle. Suddenly, Rei's phone buzzes. It's an alert. A magic fissure is predicted to open near the LK building in less than an hour. The initial data projects it to be a silver-class fissure. A wave of concern washes over Rei's face. She looks at the other two and declares that dinner is officially over. A fissure of that level means high-ranking monsters are about to pour through. She glances at Aoi, who without a shred of hesitation says she's in. Arata immediately chimes in, saying if Aoi's going, he's going too. Rei agrees to let Arata tag along but gives him a stern warning not to get cocky, because a silver-rank dungeon will chew him up and spit him out if he's not careful. Arata promises he'll stay on high alert, but inside, a voice tells him that with all his recent leveling up, he can totally handle a silver-rank fissure. With that, Aoi and Arata race out into the night, racing toward the exact spot the fissure was predicted to rip open. And right on cue, they watch reality tear itself apart, birthing a silver-rank fissure from the glowing rift. Aoi can practically feel the battle lust radiating off Arata and asks if he's good. He just cracks a confident grin, assuring her he's more than fine and can totally smoke this thing. With that, they both plunge into the fissure to get the job done. This time, they materialize inside a landscape of ancient crumbling ruins. Arata can't help but ask what these pocket dimensions are actually made of. Aoi explains, the common theory is that they're just lairs for monsters, but nobody can say for sure if that's the whole story. She says the fissures usually collapse once the boss is taken down, but she's pretty sure there are some permanent ones out there. Arata is stunned to hear this theory. That changes everything. Arata is in the middle of saying how quiet it is when a deep rumbling shakes the ground beneath their feet. Before either of them can process what's happening, a level 25 sandworm explodes from below its massive mouth, a horrifying vortex of jagged teeth. Then just as fast, it dives back under the sand. Aoi yells at Arata that their only hope is to listen for its movements. Aoi focuses her ears, tuning into the subtle shifts in the sand, and she manages to track the sandworm aiming right for them, just moments before it erupts from the ground. Then her face pales. She realizes there isn't just one, there are dozens. Basically, they'd been completely surrounded before they even knew what hit them. Aoi is starting to freak out, but Arata calmly tells her not to sweat it. Arata presses his palm to the ground, unleashing his suit in a thin black film that spreads out beneath the sand, sensing for vibrations. By doing this, Arata is certain he can feel out exactly where the sandworms are going to strike from next. Just as he planned, he feels a tremor, and pinpoints the worm's exit point the instant its head breaks the surface. Arata's shadow blade is already swinging. He lops the sandworm's head clean off and realizes, this is going to be easy. As long as he knows where they're popping up, it's just a deadly game of whack-a-mole. Aoi is blown away by Arata's strategy, literally calling it a game of whack-a-mole. Arata reveals that he spent his entire recovery time in the infirmary, thinking up new ways to use his powers. Arata explains that he had a theory if he could spread the suit out thinly enough, he should be able to connect his senses to it. Since he was stuck in a hospital bed, this was the only training he could actually practice. Arata is stoked that it all worked out, especially since this is his first time trying it for real. He's already realizing his suit has insane potential beyond just combat. Aoi praises his genius idea and agrees that with this tactic they can handle the sandworm infestation no problem. Arata keeps up the strategy, and in just a few moments he's hunted down every last sandworm, leaving only the fisher's boss. But he warns Aoi not to drop her guard. They come upon what looks like an ancient tomb, and Aoi urges Arata to stay alert, because her gut is screaming that something is wrong. She barely gets the words out when a stinger radiating a terrifying aura shoots out of the sand right behind them. Arata's first thought is that it's just another worm, but Aoi quickly tells him he's dead wrong. She screams that if that stinger so much as grazes them, they'll be begging for a quick end. Just then, the stinger lunges from the sand again, this time aiming for Arata, but he's already prepared for it before it even gets close. He whips around and slices it clean in half with his shadow blade. Arata scoffs, saying the beast is wasting its energy trying to hide in the sand, because he already spread his suit deep underground, turning the whole area into his personal territory. Aoi is impressed with Arata's foresight, praising him for setting up the sensor net in advance. Aoi has to admit Arata has leveled up big time. He agrees that he's gotten way stronger, plus this time Aoi is fighting alongside him. He calculates that with his current power level, he should be able to take on silver rank threats, or maybe even something stronger. Right on cue, the fisher's boss finally decides to show its face, and it turns out to be a very ticked-off level 29 death scorpion. Even though Arata already managed to snip off its stinger, the monster is still incredibly dangerous, with two massive claws ready to crush them. The scorpion swings one of its giant claws right at them, but Aoi dives in, blocking the devastating blow with her shield. The impact is massive, and Aoi struggles against the scorpion's raw power. Arata sees the cracks forming in her defense. He knows he has to act fast before things get ugly. He charges toward the scorpion, but the creature sees him coming and swings its other claw, nearly slicing him in two. Thanks to his insane agility, he manages to flip out of the way just in time. Suddenly, Arata feels himself floating into the air on a platform made of water. A quick thinking move from Aoi. She yells for him to use the high ground she created to get an advantage over the gigantic and terrifying scorpion. Arata gives her a quick thanks before launching himself off the platform and severing the scorpion's head, showering the area in disgusting green blood. Aoi rushes over to Arata, her face beaming with relief. They actually manage to defeat the scorpion. Arata is just as relieved and tells her they can finally go home. But just as they're about to celebrate, Aoi freezes. Something is seriously wrong with this picture. She points out that the victory screen hasn't popped up, a glitch that has literally never happened after dropping a boss. The dungeon itself should be collapsing by now, but everything is dead silent. The gears in Arata's head finally start to turn, and he gets what Aoi is hinting at. He asks her if it's possible for a dungeon to just not close. In that exact moment, a bone-chilling presence floods the room. A voice cuts through the silence, coming from a shadowy figure lounging right beside them. The guy's got these long, creepy ears, and a dark purple energy just bleeds from his body, like a full-blown demon. The dude casually mentions how entertaining it was to watch them take down the scorpion. Arata and Aoi are completely floored, seeing another magic beast, when they already defeated the dungeon boss. But the real shocker, this thing can actually talk. The shadowy figure then brags about how he loves puppeteering beasts to eliminate slayers, and that's when it all clicks for Aoi. This creature was the real puppet master, secretly controlling the boss the entire time, a tactic that's supposed to be impossible. The magic beast decides it's time for a little live demonstration of his skills. Seeing the scorpion's severed claws on the ground, he flexes his power, and the dead limbs twitch back to life. He commands them to fight until nothing is left. Arata's mind is blown. This guy can control monsters, even after they've been torn to pieces. The reanimated claws lunge at them, forcing them to frantically spam their ranged attacks, just to blow the scorpion parts to smithereens. The puppet master just looks bored by the whole display, and suggests they'd make for much more entertaining puppets. Aoi can't even begin to process what kind of overpowered monster they've accidentally stumbled upon. With a flick of his wrist, The sinister dude rips open a new portal right there in the boss room, inviting them to step inside. He promises them a welcome party they'll never forget, if they're brave enough to follow. Arata is stunned. They just ran into a dungeon, hidden inside another dungeon. Arata puts it together. This guy is hijacking dungeons and collecting bosses like they're trading cards. Aoi confirms his theory, saying the portal in front of them looks like it leads to his main headquarters. This new dungeon radiates a far more terrifying aura than any they've ever seen, but Aoi knows they have no choice. To clear the first dungeon, they have to dive into this new one and take out the puppet master for good. The warm-up is officially over. The real battle has just begun. Swallowing their fear, the two step through the portal into what looks like a massive, ominous castle. Arata wonders if this place is somehow connected to the human world. Little do they know, predatory eyes are watching them from the shadows above. Suddenly, a beast drops from the ceiling, its sword flashing as it plummets towards Arata, aiming to take his head clean off. But Arata's reflexes are on another level. He whips around and fires a point-blank cannon blast into the beast, blowing a massive hole straight through its torso. But as the creature falls, they realize the horrifying truth. They are completely surrounded by a massive horde of monsters. And these aren't just regular mobs. Every last one of them is a boss-level threat, all under the puppet master's command. Arata can't get over how shameless this guy is, turning powerful creatures into his personal playthings. Aoi tells Arata that together, they might just be strong enough to wipe them all out. Arata draws his sword and carves through a whole squad of them, but for every one, they cut down two more, take its place. As exhaustion starts to set in, they know they need a new strategy. They have to ignore the endless army and make a beeline for the guy in charge. Aoi points towards their target, and the two of them sprint through the chaos, a wave of monster puppets hot on their heels. They finally break through the horde and reach the throne room, where the puppet master is waiting for them on his throne. But getting to him wasn't the end of it. He's flanked by two terrifying colossal knights, both wielding swords the size of giants. The puppet master smirks, telling them that even though they cleared out some of his pawns, he has a nearly endless supply in reserve. Aoi glares back, pointing out that they only need to kill him. Once he's gone, his entire puppet army will crumble with him. The villain just throws his head back and laughs, calling their confidence cute. But in his eyes, they're nothing more than trash. So Arata asks him what his endgame is. Why go to all this trouble to collect magic beasts? The dude's answer is simple because it's fun for him. He thinks turning other creatures into his puppets and controlling their every move is the ultimate thrill. He then adds that humans are no different to him. He wants to turn powerful fighters like Arata and Aoi into his prized puppets. In his world, it's the right of the strong to dominate the weak. That's when Arata decides to ask the real question, the one that changes everything. He wants to know if there's a way to reverse the transformation to turn a magic beast back into a human. Aoi's eyes go wide at the question, but a cruel smile spreads across the demon's face. He instantly realizes that Arata has someone precious he wants to save. Tell me, Arata demands, his voice trembling with rage. The puppet master lets out a chuckle, telling Arata he might just spill the secret, if Arata can actually manage to defeat him. And with that, the villain unleashes his true power, the ability to manipulate blood. The air instantly fills with razor-sharp projectiles made of blood, all homing in on Arata. He manages to block the main barrage, but several projectiles still pierce his body. While he's reeling from the attack, one of the massive knights closes the distance in an instant. All Arata can do is watch as the giant's blade comes swinging down, poised to finish him, but like clockwork, Aoi dives in to save him. A brilliant shield materializes, intercepting the knight's devastating blow meant for Arata. But the effort alone sends a shockwave of pain through Aoi's body. Arata scrambles to her side, but she just brushes him off, insisting she's fine. She is so not fine. Still, Aoi shoves Arata toward the main boss, telling him to obliterate the demon while she holds off the knights. Arata makes the vow, charging head-on at the demon, with one single thought burning in his mind: he absolutely cannot let Aoi suffer one more scratch. Aoi channels a quick healing spell into herself, just enough to get back on her feet, so she can deal with the knights and link back up with Arata. Aoi realizes her only shot is a one and done, a single attack, to wipe out all these creatures simultaneously. There's only one way to pull it off. She pours every last drop of her power into the one skill she believes can turn the tide. She gathers her energy and unleashes a cataclysmic blast that completely vaporizes the knights. Except, the knights just reform themselves from the dust. She's not even shocked. A part of her totally expected that would happen. With whatever dregs of power she has left, Aoi braces for another round against the knights as Arata closes the distance to the Demon King. The demon watches intrigued, and Arata stops his own bleeding by mixing soot and blood to force it to clot. Now that's a neat trick, the demon muses. A twisted smile spreads across his face as he asks Arata, "You're from my world, aren't you?" The question hits Arata like a ton of bricks. He instantly knows the dude is talking about his unique skill. But instead of a long chat, the demon suggests they wrap up their little death match. He's dying to see which is superior, his demonic blood or Arata's mysterious soot. The demon hurls a torrent of blood at Arata, who counters by blasting it apart with his burst soot cannon. The demon just switches tactics. He cracks a blood whip through the air, daring Arata to deal with it. With a flash of darkness, Arata cleaves it in two with his shadow blade. This level of power coming from Arata just gets the demon more hyped. He relentlessly launches whip after whip at Arata, but Arata deflects every single one. The demon taunts him, screaming for him to unleash his true power. Arata, however, knows exactly what's happening. At this rate, the demon is just going to wear him down until he collapses from exhaustion. The demon mocks him again, calling him a one-trick pony. And then he decides to cross a line. You know, the demon smirks, once I'm done with you, I think I'll go have some fun with your little friend over there. And he redirects a blood attack straight for Aoi. She's already completely overwhelmed by the knights. Arata whips his head around, screaming her name, but in that split second of distraction, a blood spear erupts from his back. Shock and confusion paralyze him as he coughs up a spray of blood before collapsing to the unforgiving ground. The demon sneers down at him. Rule number 1, never take your eyes off your opponent. He then cracks his knuckles, ready to turn Arata into his newest puppet. Just like he threatened, he aims a final blood spike to finish Arata, but somehow Aoi appears, shielding him one last time. The demon is absolutely furious that Aoi is ruining his masterpiece. Aoi just stares him down, admitting, you must be pretty strong to have actually taken Arata down. But instead of wasting her breath, Aoi covertly begins channeling her healing magic into Arata, hiding it from the demon's view. When the demon finally notices, he laughs cruelly, telling her, you know he died protecting you, right? But he lets her know there's no point in trying to heal a corpse. His words pierce her heart, the idea that she's the reason Arata is dead, and it sends her spiraling back to a dark memory. The image of a monster slaughtering her sister Minato flashes before her eyes. For a second, Aoi feels herself about to break, but she forces herself back from the edge, recognizing that the demon is just playing twisted mind games to break her spirit. She realizes all she needs to do is buy time. Just hold on until Arata is back on his feet. Aoi is not about to give up on him. The demon decides to toy with them. He lashes out with his blood whip, but Aoi summons a water shield that easily repels the attack. Realizing she's a water attribute user, the demon just laughs. He keeps up the assault, but Aoi stands her ground, blocking everything he throws at her. She tells the demon flatly that her water attribute was born for one purpose, to stop the spilling of blood. Apparently her power is designed to blend with anything, making it the ultimate support ability. And she has been training non-stop, just to perfect her role as a supporter. It's then that the demon finally gets it. Aoi is diluting the potency of his blood magic by mixing it with her water. The demon isn't even mad, he just figures he needs to produce way more blood. Aoi knows she can't hold out forever. Eventually, the sheer volume of his power will completely overwhelm her. In that desperate moment, Arata's eyes snap open. Wasting no time, Aoi creates a bubble of pure water and sends it to him. Mix this with your soot, she yells. It's time to flip the script. Arata does exactly as she says, but the demon just laughs at their pathetic little plan. He tells them they have absolutely no chance. The demon unleashes his blood whip like before, but this time Arata meets it head-on with his soot, now supercharged with water particles. The new attack doesn't just block the blood, Whip It devours it, stunning the demon. He had no idea that water is the ultimate amplifier. It can magnify any power it touches. With her job done, Aoi steps back, leaving the rest of the fight to Arata. She tells him to go finish this demon for good. With zero hesitation, Arata closes the distance, his shadow blade erupting to gouge a raw, bloody canyon across the demon's chest. A geyser of blood erupts as the demon staggers back, the sheer force of the blow, slamming him to the floor, clutching his ruined chest in agony. Through gritted teeth, he admits this kid is on another level, the very first human to ever make him feel true pain. The demon's mind reels. He's always had the upper hand, always been the predator, but now the entire script has been flipped. His mind snaps back to the moment he was leaving his realm. The demon Valgad remembers his subordinate, begging him not to go. But he was arrogant and blew him off even after a chilling warning, the one thing you've ignored will come back to end you. Valgad stares in disbelief. Every single word of that prophecy is coming true, right before his eyes. Arata's voice cuts through the haze, demanding to know how to reverse the transformation of humans into magic beasts, but Valgad just scoffs. He sneers that the deal was he'd talk if Arata won. That's all it takes for Arata to snap roaring at him to spill the secret. All he cares about is finding a way to turn his brother back into a human. Valgad takes a long, dramatic breath, as if he's about to reveal a world-shattering secret, but it's a fake-out. He just explodes with laughter, his voice dripping with cruelty as he tells Arata it's completely impossible. Valgad drives the knife in deeper, claiming there's no undo button. Once someone becomes a magic beast, they're a beast forever. The color drains from Arata's face, his hope shattering into a million pieces, and Valgad just soaks it in, savoring his despair. Arata can only watch paralyzed as Valgad's body disintegrates into dust. In that moment, a system notification flashes he's vaulted from level 15 to level 21. Yet he remains frozen, a statue of grief. Aoi appears behind him gently asking if he's okay just as something clatters to the ground. She snatches it up. She yells for his attention. This is a first, a boss has never dropped an item before. Aoi presses the item into his hand, telling him this could unlock a seriously special skill. The moment he grabs it, the system confirms it. The skill is vassalization. Arata's blood runs cold. It's the exact same power Valgad used, but he couldn't care less. A pop-up explains the terrifying ability he can resurrect the dead to serve as his loyal puppets. There's a massive catch though. The resurrected retain none of their old powers or personality. They're just empty shells hardwired to obey their master's every command. When the fissure finally dissolves, they're back in the real world. But Arata doesn't look like a victor. He looks like a man who just lost everything. Valgad's final words, "It's impossible," are a poison, replaying over and over in his head, but a part of him refuses to believe it. Aoi can see the storm brewing in his eyes and tries to ground him, promising him they'll find another way if they stick together. That's when Arata's resolve hardens. He declares that even if he can't make his brother human again, he is still going to save him, no matter the cost. Back at the guild, Aoi debriefs Rei on the entire chaotic battle, her heart aching for what Arata is going through. Rei immediately pieces it together. Arata's powers and Valgad's come from the same dark origin. Her strategic mind suggests they capture his brother for surveillance. But Aoi vouches for him instantly, insisting Arata would never harm innocent people, even if his power source is sketchy. He tells Rei with unshakable confidence that fighting alongside him proved his character, adding that if he ever did cross a line, she herself would be the one to stop him. Struck by Aoi's fierce loyalty, Rei concedes, telling her to let Arata have some space to process everything. She informs Aoi that she'll run her proposal by the association. Meanwhile, Arata walks like a ghost back to his old home. The apartment is a mess, a time capsule of abandonment, looking more like a forgotten ruin than a place where anyone ever lived.